standard. Oh. Hello and welcome to Hearts Standard. We are James Joe are at the what's the full name of this? We're at Rugby Park for the massive League Cup clash, Revival League Cup clash between Kilmarnock and Hearts for a place in the semi-final up for grabs. The team news is in, and Stephen Naismith has made 3 changes from the side that were defeated 1-0 by St Mirren at the weekend. It looks more like a traditional 4-2-3-1. Toby Sibbick's in for Nathaniel Atkinson, who has gone for a scan, is injured. There is a change in midfield with George Grant in place of Boyce, and it means that Neuenhoff and Devlin on the midfield too, whereas Forrest has also came in, so Vargas and Forrest will flank Grant behind Shanklin. That's what we seem to think is that makes the most sense.
Yeah,
that makes the most sense.
I don't think we're going to get thrown any curveballs like with Aaron Paisley. We couldn't figure out what the shape was. I think it will be the 4-2-3-1 we all come to expect. Yeah, Grant will come in for Boyce. I guess there's a possibility they could go for a midfield 3 if Grant went a little bit deeper, perhaps. Maybe Devlin sitting at the base, but I would expect it to be the 4-2-3-1. Interested to see how Grant gets on as well, because obviously he didn't have a great season last year, but I think there's definitely a bit of potential there.
Yeah, there's definitely. I think Hearts fans have seen it in glimpses this season. It's very much the case that he's been on the fringes. I think there was, if an offer came in for him in the summer, I think Hearts would have played ball, depending on how attractive the offer was. But at the same time, they were more than happy for him to remain at the club, which he has. And one thing I noticed, there was so much to talk about after the win against St Mirren. One thing that I did notice when he did come on is that he was starting to play forward passes and a wee bit deeper. And you wrote about how no one played an open play forward pass into the box, but he is someone that can actually can do that, whether he is deep or he's more advanced. And I do think that Grant has been maybe misused, because when he arrived at the club, he arrived. I think Robbie Nielsen talked about how he would add goals and be really effective in the final third. He had 2 spells down south where he scored loads of goals, but that was kind of playing in a front 3, whether it was off the left or just behind the striker. But since he came in, he's been moved around. He's played deeper. He's not really had the consistent run of games, and there's definitely talent there.
No, definitely. And I think when you look at it as well, like look at the midfield sort of 3, I suppose, with granted it's the most advanced point of it. I think he brings a bit more creativity to it, than what we've seen. And as we all know from watching games recently, Hearts are crying out for a bit of creativity in midfield at the moment. I mean, particularly with Barry Mackay still out as well, where I think he's one of those players who can absolutely provide that little spark. Okay, he's maybe not done as consistent as we would have liked recently, but so I think it could be a big game for Grant, and I think it'll be really interesting to see how he gets on. I'm not surprised to see Beningame drop out the team. I think that while he was excellent, it was arguably Hearts' best player against the team. He was very safe on the ball, very unflappable, just everything you'd want him to be. But obviously, he's not played that much football in such a long time, so it's understandable why you wouldn't play him twice in 3 days or give him start him twice in 3 days. I wouldn't be surprised if he came on, particularly if Hearts do have a lead to defend going into the second half. But let's not get ahead of ourselves. Particularly the form's been going recently, so we'll see how we get on. But I think it's a pretty positive lineup. I think there's not too many surprises in there. Perhaps we could have seen maybe Lowry in for Forrest, but I think Forrest is maybe better suited to this game. I think he's got that pace, and I think that's one area that Hearts are going to be able to actually hurt Killy with a bit of pace out wide, and I think we've got that on both wings.
Yeah, I think that's important, because if you had Lowry, Grant, and Shanklin in the kind of in 3 of the 4 positions in the front the forward line, is that it does lack a wee bit of pace and guys that are going to run behind, because that's the thing we've noticed with Shanklin and Boyce, is that these are 2 players that come to the ball rather than going behind. So it's important that Grant's the same. I think he'll more likely want to come to the ball. He has shown down south that he is capable of getting to the box, but maybe that's when the ball goes out wide and then he's arriving in. So it's important that Vargas and Forrest are capable of stretching the game to open it up. Elsewhere, we've got Sibbick coming in for Atkinson. We debated it prior on our predicted lineups, whether it would be Afaya or Sibbick. Sibbick came on at the weekend, so that suggested it would be Sibbick. And as expected, it is Toby Sibbick who starts at right back. I think there's still maybe not concerns about Afaya, but they don't want to chuck him in too soon, having had a spell where he hadn't trained at all until like kind of the final week?
No, I would think so. I would think that's exactly why. I mean, I'd accept he'd probably come on at some point just because he's basically the only defender on the bench. You know, that's fit and ready. So I would expect him to come on. Elsewhere,
Toyota motor vehicle FL66UNA, that's Foxtrot Lima 66, Uniform Mike Alpha. Please return to the vehicle. Thank you.
Just making sure it's not my car.
Yeah, you're off it then.
Yep.
So yeah, I think I wouldn't be surprised to see Andy Halliday come on as well. I think it'd be good. I think we can expect him to probably come on and get some minutes after returning to the matchday squad. Obviously he's been out for a wee bit as well. So, and then Peter Haring as well. Will he come on? Probably. I would think at some point, even if it's just to, give some of the other players a rest, like Devon and Neuenhoff, because there is another game coming up in a few days' time, and you don't want to burn these players out like giving them 90 minutes. But obviously, we saw Devlin came off in Paisley with about half an hour, 20 minutes to go. So maybe a wee bit less than that. Sorry, but so again, I wouldn't be surprised if Devlin was brought off just because we know how much energy he brings to the team. We know how much he runs around, and
I mean, you're very much
even he has his limits.
You're very much getting ahead of yourself for games and thinking of like, what Hearts can do during the game. It's just really important to win, and if that means playing the same 11 on the pitch just to get that win, then that's important. Just touching on Forrest, kind of had sympathy for him on Saturday, having played a really good game against Aberdeen. A lot of fans kind of pointed out because he's been written off and he's maybe not delivered the way many expected. Especially he's had chances, and then to find himself back out of the team and without anyone on the right hand side of the pitch, like I could do that job, which was frustrating for him. So it's another big night for him to try and put his message across that I can produce in a Hearts shirt.
No, and I think he can. I think he can be a valuable member of the squad. And I think that I don't think he's going to be one of these players that starts week in, week out for Hearts. I don't think that. I think that's unlikely to ever happen. But that doesn't mean he can't contribute. I think we can. Certainly at Livingston, before he came, he was an excellent player. He was like a really massive creative outlet for them. And he's at Ayr United before that. So I think there is a good player in there. And while he's had an indifferent time of it at Hearts, he's definitely more than capable of being a squad player and filling in games like this.
Yeah, I thought when we signed him, I thought it was a smart signing. No, I didn't expect him to come in and just be a key player. I just thought he'd be an important squad member, especially with Europe, and I thought he would be good for the domestic campaign. And then the other side of it is that this is a guy who's played with Shankland Ayr. They've got that relationship, and we've not really seen that relationship flourish in a Hearts jersey. It did at Ayr United. Yes, that was in kind of League One in the Championship, and it's a massive step up for them to both do it in the Premiership. But individually, they have done that. And Shankland spoke at the weekend about the lack of service, crosses into the box. There was little space. You wrote about it, and then Forrest is one of those players who can get crosses. He'll hit the byline and get crosses in. Vargas maybe less so.
I think we saw that certainly on Saturday's evidence. That was a huge problem. Was just getting the ball to Boyce and Shankland in a decent area, and I think that, like you say, that relationship that Forrest and Shankland have, they probably do have a bit of a better understanding than Shankland and most other players at the club, just because they have had all those years of playing alongside each other. So I would expect, you'd hope that brings a wee bit more to the table tonight, just because, like you said, there was a big problem, and Shankland recognised as a problem the fact that there wasn't that link up play in the final third. So you'd hope that their relationship could help them out there. So yeah, I think it is a big night for him. But again, I think that's the right choice. I had him in my predicted lineup. I thought that he's well suited to a game like this, and I think as well Sibbick as well. Again, at right back, obviously it was him or Rafaya, but I think again Sibbick's probably a bit better suited to this, because we know that the one thing that Kelly have got out wide is pace. I think both fullbacks are going to be in for a real stern examination today. I think Stephen Kingsley and
it's the same Toyota.
It's the same guy. It's the same guy. Terrible.
Because you talked about Kelly. I'm just looking at their team lineup now. They're a team that could easily go from 3 at the back to 4 at the back. I'm looking at it and thinking it's the back 4 that started against Dundee. So you've got Lewis May on the right, Rob Dees on the left, and Finlay and Joe Wright, who's on trial at Hearts at one point, as a back 4. Looks like they're just going to go for one striker up front with Gazelle. Marley Watkins is injured, and then you've got a midfield of Brad Lyons, Watson, who's a great
He's an
prospect
excellent player, yeah.
and Kyle McGuinness, and then you'll have Armstrong and Kennedy out wide. That could switch around, but there is a lot of energy in that Kilmarnock side. There's a lot of directness. You look at Armstrong and Kennedy. When they get the ball, they want to go forward, and then they get forward, and they'll either cut inside and put crosses into the box, or they'll go down the outside. So they've got that flexibility. So it's even more important that when Hearts lose the ball, they maybe do it higher up the pitch. Take riskier passes, and then see if you get a turn. If you lose the ball higher up the pitch, maybe try and force the issue a bit more. That gives you a chance to win it back higher up the pitch, and then you've kind of disrupted Kelly and be able to play through space rather than the side-to-side passing, going in midfield, coming back, allowing Kelly to settle, get in a shape, win the ball, and then spring forward.
Absolutely. No, I think that's a really good point. I mean, I think particular that you have to look at Danny Armstrong as Kilmarnock's probably the most dangerous player. Like, he's probably the most threatening. And I know some Kelly fans have been entirely happy with him.
Yeah.
Which seems a bit strange because he's still getting goals and assists and all the rest of it. But you shudder to think what his overall contribution was last season, but he must have had a hand in about at least half of their goals. So I think that it's going to be a big night for Stephen Kingsley having to deal with that. Kai Rose, if that's going to have to help out at times. We know Armstrong likes to cut in. He really likes to get shots away from distance. But also has to be alert tonight. He's going to have to come out and block that. And of course, the other huge weapon that Kelly have in the Arsenal is the set pieces.
I mean, you've got 4 centre-backs essentially playing, so they're going to have at least 4 big guys, and you've got Kyle Vassell as well in that box to hit.
So it's going to be, that gives me some pause for sure. I'm a bit concerned about that. As any team in the league should be, to be honest. They're the best team in the league at set pieces. It have been for a while now. So it will be interesting to see how Hearts cope with that. I don't think they've been entirely convincing at defending set pieces this season, but I think Naismith pointed out in a press conference earlier this week that Hearts haven't actually conceded a goal from a set piece this season. So I guess there is perhaps some encouragement to take from that. Hopefully that keeps going, because I think he was talking about how the players and the defenders are all really confident now when these set pieces arrive, because they're not worried about, oh God, who's picking up who. They're calm, they're relaxed, and they're certainly not worried about the opposition. Perhaps tonight they should be, but we'll find out.
I was going to say, well, if we concede from a set piece a day, I know who is to blame. I think it's important to look at some of the bigger issues as well. We'll get onto the banners and stuff about the board, but so let's talk about Stephen Naismith and what this match can provide for him. Obviously, he's came in for a lot of criticism. The form, the performances, the results have not been good enough at all. There's not been enough signs of progression. However, a win here could alleviate some of the noise, maybe the pressure, and give them a wee bit of breathing space. I mean, let's get straight. It's not going to a win tonight's not going to win back all the fans who have their doubts about Stephen Naismith, but it's one of those bricks in the wall that he needs to keep building with Ross County and then massively the derby.
Absolutely, I think we all know these next 3 games are going to be really pivotal for Naismith. I don't think there's any getting around that. I think that. I mean, it's interesting though, because he is under pressure. I think everyone can agree on that. But I mean, certainly you speak to him, after the game on Saturday, and you were at the media conference yesterday. He doesn't. If he's feeling under pressure, he's not acting like it. He's not showing it. So maybe that's obviously he was an excellent player, played at a very high level. He's used to these high pressure scenarios. So you'd like to think that would continue. But there's a lot of pressure on him. Like this kind of game tonight. You're right, it's not going to erase everything else. It's not going to be, we won, that's it, it's all fine. But it would go a long way to showing that Hearts can play against a team that make life difficult for you and get a result. Yeah. Because right now, that's what they've really, really struggled with.
Because they've not shown it any time this season, because you look at St Johnstone, they made it difficult, but with all due respect, St Johnstone are not very good. They're bottom of the table for a reason. And Aberdeen, I think Aberdeen were probably caught whether to just be that really defensive side and to have a bit more attacking about them, as their fans would expect. Whereas the teams, Kilmarnock, Dundee, Motherwell, St Mirren, who knew exactly what to do against Hearts have never found an answer to that. And then moving on, just before we finish, I would imagine a lot of people on social media will have seen the banners. There was kind of graffiti outside Tynecastle asking for the board removal and budget removal. Not for the first time, it has to be said. And then there was banners in Gorgie as well. I think maybe so the team could see it as they departed. there is. If there's a lot of criticism coming Naismith's way, I don't think it's matched by the criticism or the pressure that is the fans are wanting to put on the board, who these see as just having not made the right decisions, have not provided the tools for the team to be as successful as they want it to be.
I think a common criticism seems to be that there's not enough football people on the board. That these are people that are running the club as executives rather than as football people, and whether or not those things happen there, it's a story for another day. Yeah. But you're right. I mean, it does show that the strength of feeling there is right now around Tynecastle, and just how disappointed people are, not just with things on the park, but everything else as well. Of course, one way to make that better is to get results, because when everything's going well, people aren't too quick to point fingers at the board or this or that, the other thing. But no, I think fans right now are frustrated. A lot of different things. You can
understand as well, especially the way I think the way the management decision came out in terms of Naismith going from interim head coach to technical director, Frankie McAvoy, and then it's switching. It was just
it doesn't look great.
It doesn't look great. It doesn't look great at all. And you can understand the frustration. That was one of the questions we got in our by one of the fans when we did our first video, just answering questions. We didn't get around to it, but it was about, is there enough football people on the board? And so like Joe Savage, sporting director, he's very has an influential position on the board. So you got him, and you've also got Jerry Mellon, who's the foundation of Hearts chairman. He's worked with the Northern Irish FA, so he's got that experience. So I'm not sure there's not enough football people on the board. Things like Craig Levine previously, so they've always had football experience. It's just it's a fact that since Budge came in, and there's so many good things that have happened at the club, especially off the field. There's been a solid platform. Hearts are probably in the best financial position they have been, certainly in my lifetime. But some of the managerial decisions have not worked. I think there's been 2 successful ones, and they're both Robbie Nielsen. Yep. So it's kind of depending on what kind of materialises over the next few weeks or months. Like the next managerial decision, if it comes soon, is an absolutely massive one for it to happen, and it will be interesting to see how things progress over the coming weeks, and the fan feeling if the results on the pitch don't go well.
Oh, exactly. We all know that when things are going wrong on the park, that's when it's easier to you start looking at other things and go, oh, look at that as well. Look, oh, isn't that disgrace? Isn't this terrible? So we know that the team's fortunes on the park are directly linked to fans' mood. That's just how football works. But you're right. I mean, it's not only a big few weeks for Naismith, but it's a huge few weeks for the board as well. Particularly if they do find themselves in the position of having to find a new manager. Because if it did get to that point, and they made another poor appointment at that point, it's those questions over the big decisions are only going to get louder and louder.
And I think the big fact is that Hearts are fan owned as well. That I think there's just that extra feeling and extra expectation as well. But yeah, we'll see how that plays out. But first of all, we've got Kilmarnock to deal with tonight. Fingers crossed it doesn't go to extra time. If it means Hearts progressing to the semi-final, then that's fine. We'll take extra time, but try and enjoy the game, and all the coverage will be across heartstandard.co.uk across the next few hours and into tomorrow as well. Try and enjoy the game as best you can.